Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm trying to work out which day it is already. It's been one of those weeks where there's been a lot going on and so I'm still trying to catch up with myself really. It's been a very busy day today. I saw a number of you this morning at networking in Edinburgh today for a change. As you know, most of the time at the moment I'm out in Glasgow, going out and seeing some new places and meeting new people. But today, an Edinburgh day close to home. You would have thought I'd have been in plenty of time to get here and set myself up, but as ever it's been a bit of a rush. I'm trying to get as much as I can that's on this board in your sight, although you won't be able to read it all, but you'll be able to read some of it, which is great. I'm just going to swipe that so that if people come on I can actually see you. So don't know whether I'm necessarily expecting many people again because we're running this one on the business page. Hopefully in the next couple of minutes, some of you that know about it will hop across from our Facebook group, the Ideas into Action Collective. So anyway, have you had a good week so far? How's it been going? We've been, as I say, quite busy here doing our usual networking and stuff, but also yet again planning for the future and working out what we're going to do next. Every week sees us do the same sorts of things, a review at the end of Friday, a good look on Sunday into Monday to helpfully move us forward with our plans for the week. So that's what we do to actually make sure we keep going and keep the momentum up week on week. It's quite exhausting doing so many weeks on a stretch when you're leading up to a brand new boot camp in a new city. But you'll all know this about your own businesses and how you're setting up your various projects and your 90-day plans if you're working on plans out of boot camp or whatever. You'll remember that today we're going to talk about overcoming some challenges. So on Friday I talked to you about basically what my thoughts were around overcoming challenges. So hopefully you'll have from that a good idea of sort of where I'm coming from and the sorts of things that I feel are important when it comes to overcoming challenges and really the ethos behind the way I work and the way I look at challenges. I think it's very important for us to actually get a grip of what are the challenges that are relevant to us, and then find various different mechanisms, either ourselves or with others, to actually combat those. But the first thing is to actually face them and to write them down. So I said to you before on Friday when I was talking about the general ethos, what I'd done was actually I had sent something out to people over a week ago now to ask in our Facebook group in the collective what people's biggest challenges were, because we're always trying to adapt what we've got as products and offerings and our workshops and things to be able to offer you something that's going to be really helpful to you in taking your businesses forward. So you came out with a big list and what I've done is put them down this side of the board here. And the top things, as I put the numbers down the side, you'll get to see this in more detail at the end. For those of you that are used to my tiny teaches that I do here, you'll know that you get a copy of the photograph, a photograph of this board at the end, stuck in the comments page, so you can actually see within the comments what the detail was. But basically, today we're going to cover the top 2 things that came out in the top challenges that people told us about. And those 2 were finding and keeping ideal clients and using social media for business. So those came out head and shoulders above the rest of the things on the list. For I think it was something like 15 scores for this and 11 or 12 scores for this one here. It was very much sort of ahead of the game in people's minds, obviously, as being things that you think you need to deal with and work with. So today we're going to cover those 2 together as one unit because I don't think that you can separate them. Down here I've started to cluster together then what we'll do next week and what we'll do the week after. I don't even see that at all really, that's just a bunch of little lines. But just to give you an overview then, the plan is that next week we will do the things you mentioned around having a lack of confidence, either in yourself or your business or your models or perhaps your messages, and just having a lack of confidence in the messages that you've got to deliver. So we'll look at that, because the second one down in this category, which came 6th, so lack of confidence came 4th in your list of things that you were most worried about, and 6th in the list of things you were worried about was the fear of selling. So that's why I'm sort of getting a feeling that maybe the lack of confidence is again around your messages and your confidence in being able to pitch what you've got on offer and talk about it and have confidence in the fact that people will want to buy it and want to have that service from you. Somebody else at number 11 here, we've got, I think it was one person down here at 11 that had said something about recommending and not selling was the phrase they used. And I think that's again a fear of how you get your messages right in order that you can sell to people without appearing to be salesy. So we're going to cover some of that in next week. And also fear of success, which is an interesting one and possibly to do with how you've actually allowed yourself to think about what does the successful outcome look like for you. So again, we're going to explore that a little bit next week, and we're going to put those 4 together. And then the week after, we will pick up the remaining things on the list of challenges that you highlighted. So a number of you had put the pressure of being just me. Solo-preneurs, something I talk about quite regularly, is the fact that it is not easy to be out here running a business on your own without anybody to talk to about it, without any sounding boards, learning as you go along potentially, which can be quite scary, particularly if you've got to earn money within a certain period of time. Then that puts more and more pressure on you. And so, as I say, those sorts of things, I think the pressure of being just me is an interesting one. We talk about it a little bit in the boot camp when people come there. You'll recollect, whoever's been there already, that we talk about the benefit of finding your people. Literally just having a network of people to talk to understand you and what you're doing and why you're doing it, and why you choose not to have a day job like normal people, as some of your friends or family might say. And along with that week, we thought we'd do the stuff around then lack of support was one of the things you highlighted, along with then not enough time. And interestingly, the third thing in your list, underneath finding and keeping ideal clients and using social media for business, we've put down in the final week here, but it was procrastination, which I understand, because I can displace, I can procrastinate and prevaricate around and not decide on things. But if you've got a clear vision and you've got a very clear why about what you're doing and why it's the thing that you need to do in life and why it's the thing that you need to deliver to other people, then procrastination starts to get crowded out. I think you begin to get the momentum for things going forward and for being able to achieve what you want to do. So as I say, we put it in there with the thing around time pressure. Too much to do was the final one on your list here. So again, we'll cluster that together. So week 3 is going to be a week around support networks around you, and time management, I think, and prioritisation. Next week will be the one around confidence and selling, and feeling comfortable in what you're doing and selling. And so today, as I say, we're going to cover just some things around finding and keeping your ideal clients and using social media for business. I think at the moment I'm possibly still on here on my own, which is fine, because I knew a number of you wouldn't get on, and it's a different day for me as well. I'm normally doing this on a Friday. We thought we'd try Wednesdays and see how it went with people. It's difficult at the first, I think, with these sorts of things, for those of you starting to think about your own Facebook Lives, to find the right slot in the week when people want to actually join in with you and do these. But hopefully, as I say, we'll find over the next few weeks, we're going to try the Wednesday 6 o'clock slot and see if that becomes something that you can latch onto and people turn up on the night. For now, as I say, just me talking to myself, which is fine. I do a lot of that anyway, as you all know. So that's what we're going to cover over the next 3 weeks. That should cover all of the things that people have talked about in their concerns and worries about their biggest challenges. And so I'll then move you over to more of the diagrams that I've put on. So I don't know whether I can do it better from this side. Who knows? So we'll try from here for a bit. When I was thinking then of finding your ideal customer and using social media, I couldn't separate the two. In my mind, the two are intrinsically linked. Using social media in order to find and nurture and keep your ideal customers. For me, it's a vital element. It's the thing, if you remember my story, that I didn't do before. I didn't have to do before in my business for the last 30 years that's worked with public sector. I didn't necessarily ever have to market myself or find the customers who were going to buy my thing. From probably 1991 onwards, I knew pretty much who my customers were. I had a very good idea of what my messages were for them, and I was lucky in that people just rang me and said, "Hi Karen, can you do this? Can you come and fix X, Y and Z?" And people started to know what I was there to do and how I could help them. So for me, over the last 3 years, like many of you, I've been on a journey of discovery to understand what on earth this social media thing was, what you use it for, how you can use it for business. Up until 3 years ago, social media was just something where I had a LinkedIn profile, like many of you. Certainly up here in Scotland, I think you use it far more in small business here in Scotland than we used to down in England. Certainly with the people that I used to mix with, public sector and large corporates used LinkedIn, but pretty much, small business, it wasn't necessarily the place for small business to be on. For me, as I say, social media was, I had a LinkedIn profile and I had a Facebook profile, which was something relatively small, I don't know, a couple of hundred people, maybe just under 300 people, who were a mix of friends and colleagues and friends from work and family. And it was the place I used to go to see where people had been on their holidays, and to see people's snaps of things like that, or to stalk my nephew and my niece and find out when they'd been to Nando's, which was great because they introduced me to Nando's, so life good. But I didn't use it for business. And it was a revelation to me 3 years ago to find out exactly how I should be using it and what benefits it would bring me if I did. But now, in my mind, I couldn't separate finding and keeping my ideal clients from the use of social media. So the diagram I've done today is one that says this particular subject absolutely and utterly revolves around one thing at its centre: your ideal customer. Knowing who your ideal customer is absolutely vital. If you don't know who you want to speak to, how are you going to find them? If you don't know them inside out, how are you consistently going to be able to give them messages that resonate with them, that make them want to work with you more and see you more? It becomes impossible to try and work out how that would actually function and work for you if you don't know who your customer really is. One of the things that we hate the most when we work down south, one of my colleagues would spend 2 or 3 days with you, given a choice, on going into your customer, your ideal customer avatar. That's not the blue thing off the movies. That's just your ideal person. If you were making up a person who was your ideal customer, what would they look like? And she would literally, my colleague would spend 2 or 3 days with you just on that. In our boot camp, we spend a small amount of time looking at your ideal customer and saying you want to actually give them a persona. You want to make them real in your eyes so that you can speak to them, because who am I speaking to now? I'm here on my own. So I'm speaking to somebody. Well, in my mind's eye, I am speaking to my ideal customer. That's either Martin or Martina. They're aged between 35 and 54 possibly. They're people who have got a small business and want to do more with it. They haven't got their ideal customers. I have a vision of where they are. I know where they are online. I know what they like. I know what their values are. I understand how that mythical person that is my ideal customer that I'm talking to ticks. Often our best way of knowing who our ideal customer is, of course, is thinking back to the fact that we're possibly, in a lot of instances, selling to our former selves. So for a lot of people, the person who is your ideal customer is you a few years ago. It's not always easy then to remember back and think what you knew and what you didn't know and unlearn, if you like, everything that you've learned in the intervening years. But if you can do that, can you think about how you were, what were the problems you wanted to solve, what were the things that you were most worried about and concerned about, then actually that would be great. You would think about those people and you would remember how you were and be able to fashion your messages. Yay, up the blues, Martin Callis is on. Thumbs up, mate. Well done to you. So basically, you want to get to grips with who this person is. You want to find that person in your mind's eye, and you want to write down in detail what they look like, where they shop, where they go, everything you can possibly know about them, so that you can start to preempt what do they need to hear from you. How can you help that person? So they're at the very centre of the finding your ideal customer. And I know a lot of people will do this exercise in the boot camp with me, and they'll spend 20 minutes doing it, and they'll write some things in all the boxes that I've provided, and they'll humour me and put a bit about their passions and where they live online. But you might not go and revisit it again afterwards. And I would say that's a mistake. You need, fundamentally, to get those people into your business and buying from you and interacting with you and working with you, you need to know them inside out. So revisit. If you've already done a quick snapshot, revisit. If you think you've done it years ago, but you haven't done it for ages, sit down on your own or with your team, if you're lucky enough to have a team, and think through, who is this for? What do they really need and what do they really want? Because the second circle round from this says you want on one side to find them, and on the other side you said to keep them. So you need to actually find a way to work out where they are, to get them to come to you, to reach them. On social media terms, Facebook and other social media talk about reach. How many people can you reach and find? How can you define who your customer is? And I would say you've got to link this to going right back to basics about your actual product, your service and your product. These little ones up here say things like, be realistic, it says along the top here. The ideal mix of your business and your products has to pay reference to this, being realistic. It is about what you love. It is about what you've got experience in, where you can give something that they can get from nowhere else in the way that you can deliver it. That's absolutely what's going to be at the core of it if you want to make a business that you're going to love. But they also have to want it. They have to want the things that you're describing, the products or the services that you're going to provide for them. They have to actually want those. And the biggest element of all, they have to be willing to pay for them. And sometimes that's something we forget. So we'll think about this, and we'll work out what we want to do and how we want to do it and what we've got to deliver that's fabulous. And we haven't worked out a strategy for, are they actually going to pay for this? Do they have the money? I'm moving off for a drink. Hang on. So it's important to recognise that it's a mix of these three things that makes a successful product range, a successful business. It has to be about the three things. So let's take it as a given that you've got something you love, that you desperately want to provide. You know you've got to deliver this service, provide these goods. You know there's a waiting audience out there who want it. And you know that they will actually pay for it. And that's different all the while, wherever you are, whatever the product is. That's, you know, it was different for me. Those of you that have come to boot camp, you'll remember I told you about, I came here with a sales funnel and a structure and a clear idea of how I was going to work and sell things. And within 2 weeks of going out and meeting people, I quickly realised that actually it was potentially a very different sales funnel that I'd have at the end of all of this sort of evolving stage of my business. I would actually have to have some products that were at a lower level, because to engage people with me in the first instance as a complete newbie to the country, to the city, not known for doing this here, although I do this down in London, not known in Scotland for doing what I do, people would need to have a lot of confidence in me. They would need to have a lot of experience of what I did and see what I did first-hand potentially, or certainly second-hand, and have people recommend it before they would spend a lot of money on it. Because they don't know who I am, they don't know what I'm doing, and that might be the same with your products. And then I had to pitch certain products at an introductory price to work out some cut-down, smaller versions of some of my products that would give them a sampler, a taster of what I was doing. so that they could get into the whole way that I work and see whether it suited them. And if they do like it, and if it does suit them, then that's fine. There might be other products further down my sales funnel that look like the original ones that I had in my mind. But I had to make sure I'd got something that I loved and had experience in, something they wanted, and something they would pay for. It's a key thing, and it's part of knowing your customers. Knowing your ideal customer and really researching and finding out what they buy now, who do they buy from, what sort of stuff do they love, what are their passions, what are their pain points. This is the vital underlying element to any successful business. This is how you find your customers. I would then go back to, you find them here in this outer ring then, online. The second thing in your challenges was how you actually use social media for business. And I'm saying, in order to, once you've found your right customers, to actually find the customers, to keep the customers, you need to actually utilise social media really cleverly. And I didn't do that previously. This is new to me, and it'll be new to many of you. It's only the last 3 years that this has been something I have done on a regular basis and found it actually works. This is great. It's a brilliant way to get to lots and lots of people. In the Scotland element here, I will add, I wasn't anticipating to come here and do networking, but those of you, as in physical face-to-face networking, but those of you that have met me out and about, possibly some of you who've been to the boot camps will know that actually I'm the one that set myself then meet 1,000 people before the first event challenge, and that's what I'm doing now for Glasgow, because you have a lot of business networking going on here in Scotland. So if you're local and you're thinking about how to do this, and that might be in your own locality in other areas of the country as well, if there is a really vibrant local networking available to you where businesses meet face to face, don't ditch it for social media, for heaven's sake. Use both. But what you're doing, like I'm doing now when I go out and meet my 1,000 people before the events, is if I can't get them to come to a boot camp, I'm trying to get them to come and join my Facebook group, to come and like my Facebook page so that they can see things like this and they can work out whether they'd like to work with me more through seeing those little snippets. So you go out and you engage people and I learn from them. Every time I go out networking, I learn so much valuable information about what I should be delivering and how I should be delivering it. So I think social media in some areas definitely goes hand in hand with a very proactive networking campaign locally. In other areas, local networking, not so important. You can do most of your business on social media. So you have to judge again, where are your customers? How does it work where you are and where you're dealing with people? I want people online, but I also want to run physical boot camps. That means physical contact with people, finding people face to face as well. On this social media ring here, I have said over this half in the find people side, that's about Facebook pages. Use of Facebook pages to reach more people. That's what the Facebook page is for. Your profile gives people a view of your life and who you are and your values and about how you do stuff, what sort of person you are. So if you choose to have your Facebook profile or one of your other social media profiles viewable and you choose to let people friend you, then that's great. They get to see through those pages some little snippets of your life and start to understand more about you and how you tick. But then you have a Facebook page, a business page, which allows you to reach far more people, to use all those fabulous tools on Facebook and other platforms. On Facebook particularly, Insights is just a brilliant tool for allowing you to target your advertising and really fine-tune in. If you know who your ideal customer is and who else they follow, you can find your customer by saying, find me people who like these other people. So you can actually find your competitors' customers on Facebook and work with it. For those of you that are wondering why I'm talking mainly Facebook, if you put the stats together about who's online using Facebook and other social media, the figures for everyone else on all the other platforms are in their millions. Millions of active people every day or every month. For Facebook, 2 billion people a month online and active. It's by far the biggest platform, and don't fool yourself in saying that your people aren't on there. The older age groups are growing on there at a faster rate than the youngest, so middle-aged people forward are getting onto Facebook and online and using things at a faster rate now than the youngsters. So everybody's on there. Business people, you say they're only on LinkedIn, but actually you want a LinkedIn profile, but you also want to use Facebook. In between that box set, when everybody's heads go down, if somebody leaves the room and you put the box set on hold, everybody's heads go down to their phone, and you can bet you they're on Facebook. So it is a platform that you would be short-sighted, and that's a very polite way of putting it, if you didn't choose to try and exploit the brilliant opportunity that small businesses have got to use Facebook at the moment, because it's the most competitive place that you'll find for paying for advertising, and also the organic growth, the ability to actually grow your audience and to give quality content to your audience through Facebook is huge. So I would say with social media, as I say, on Facebook, you use pages to find people, and then you migrate people to Facebook groups over here in order to keep them, to nurture them. You're trying to get people to stay with you, you're giving them more value, you're showing them more of these videos or things that you can offer them. So it would be an ideal place, as I say, for you to use Facebook groups to nurture people and help keep your people on board by giving more value. It sounds counterintuitive, I know. When I started working in this, to hear the words, give away your best stuff first, really puzzled me. I couldn't quite work out how that could possibly help me when starting a business to actually give away my best stuff. But now I wholeheartedly see the logic of it. It makes complete and utter sense, because actually what they mean is you can't give everybody all of your stuff, but you can give them an insight. You can give them some things that are really valuable little tools, top 10 tips, cheat sheets, small videos, ebooks, all sorts of things, little snippets like this on video where you tell them a few hints and tips that are going to help them with their business. Because what you need to do using your social media is give people some things that will give them results before they become your customer. Give them something that allows them to go away and do it for themselves and learn something and use something and improve their business or improve their way of working or get themselves more customers, whatever it is, before they come to purchase anything from you. Because those things store up, and actually they allow you to grow a really solid customer base. Customers come to you because they know, like and trust you, and all of this is building trust. So I think it's all about getting your messages right, no matter where you meet them. When you know who your ideal customer is, that is about your elevator pitch. That small 30-second, 1 minute, 2 minute quick intro to what you do. And that's developing all the while. Don't be tough on yourself and think, you can't get it right in an afternoon. You won't get it right in an afternoon. You will start to put together your messages, to work out what your elevator pitch is, what are the ways that you want to talk about what you do, how do you want to describe it, and then you'll start to talk to people at networking, or you'll start to put things out online, and you'll see what reaction you get to them. You'll see whether people smile when you're describing things to them at a networking. I think networking is great for this. I learned so much in those first 8 weeks of meeting 1,000 people before the first boot camp. It changed radically the way I would say things and do things and phrase things, and just the frame of reference that I was using to deliver my boot camp changed completely based on the reactions of people when I was in a room with them. So your elevator pitch is key to that. Your USP, be sure what you've got that is different to everybody else. There's lots of people out here doing business coaching. That was one of the first things that somebody from the Chamber of Commerce said to me was, oh, there are loads of business coaches. Was I worried? No, I wasn't, because nobody has this story, nobody has this set of experiences, and I will find my customers if I get out and meet enough people and share my messages and fine-tune my messages well enough and get my elevator pitch right. And if I have interesting and engaging stories. Again, those of you that have met me through networking, you know there are a series of stories. There are the stories around how I started in business, my very first business in the back of a van on a car park. Homeless, living on a car park, making crafts in a van. That's a story. It's a story that resonates with some people. It puts me into some sort of context. those sort of stories about your life, about why you do what you do for a living, about why your product is so unique, why you created it, those are unique stories that people want to hear, and that those messages will resonate with some people, and they will gravitate towards you because that will help them know, like and trust you, and then buy from you. So the stories are important. You know, I have a series of stories. Add value to people. The little thing over here with the eyes, do you like the eyes? We worked on those earlier, we were quite keen on the eyes. And that's about your job in order to get your ideal customers. Once you've found where they are and you're trying to give them messages and give them brilliant content, your job is to grab their attention. Grab their attention, not just once, but every day or every week. Consistently sending out messages in order to grab their attention so that they look to you for things. They come to you for guidance, they come to you for information, and that way they actually start to build some sort of a relationship with you. So you want to grab their attention in order to reach people and get them to want to spend time with you. You want to be able to capture them in some way by giving them something for free. So I would say, as I say, top 10 tips, cheat sheets, various things. I started with an ebook, and I would say that was a bit of a mistake. You know, you live and learn from everything you do, and I would say ebooks are too big for the first giveaway. People don't want that much information. A good friend and colleague of mine, Matt Thomas, will say people want inhalable content. Brain food, he calls it. And he's the king of content. He will be able to tell you that, you know, the smaller the piece of content these days, the better. One of the most successful marketeers now at the moment, who does a blog, is Seth Godin. And if you go and look at his blog, it's one of the smallest blogs you'll ever see. It's a couple of paragraphs. You know, this much text is a big blog from him, because people only want small nuggets of information. And then when you've got them into your groups and they've downloaded something from you and you've now got their email address, so you can keep some sort of dialogue going with them via email and in your group, you can actually nurture them, give them more things. Give them some more of these free sessions like this, Facebook Lives, Tiny Teaches, like Helena would say, various things like that. Nurture them in order that they build up that level of confidence with you where they then buy the products. Because even getting them to take something for free, you know, they want it, but it takes commitment. If I'd have offered all my boot camps for free, it would still have taken a whole day of their time to come to actually take part in it. That's quite a big give. That's quite a big thing that they're doing as a commitment without even paying to come to it. So you have to get a realistic head on really about what you're offering and how you're offering it. I'll put a little note down here to remind yourselves of something as well. Content is a big thing for people. Creating content is not always easy. We're not all brilliant at it. I've had to really work at creating content that people would want to read, because for 30 years I wrote strategies in the health service. Strategies, business plans and documents for public health and for public services, which are not the most readable of things. So I've really had to work at being able to write some content that people would want to actually read, that was engaging. But when you're doing your content, make sure that you have a split that says, you know, some of your stuff, quite rightfully, you're a business, is going to be promotional. Some of your stuff is going to point people to something that you have to offer. A product somewhere, something that you've got going on, an event somewhere that you'll be speaking, wherever it is, whatever it is. But make sure that 80% of your content is creative. It's adding value to the people who are following you. Giving them something for nothing. Giving them something that they can use to do more with, or to understand more about what they want to do and what they need to do. And only 20% of it is sales or promotional. So think about that 80-20 split, because it's really important to do that. I've put down the bottom of here another phrase which has come up in some of our research over recent weeks, and it's about the rise of some things called bots, chat bots, which are the things that you may have been interacting with some people in Messenger on Facebook, where you seem to be in a dialogue with somebody straight away as soon as you go into Messenger with somebody, and now they can send you things on Messenger like email messages. But the phrase I loved from what Chris Messina, who's the chief of Uber, who was talking in this particular article, said was, conversational commerce. And that's a bit like what this is about. I like the notion that this is conversational commerce, because what you're doing is you're just talking, you're helping, you're having conversations. But actually, underlying all of that, people will at some point gravitate towards you and your products and buy something from you. You're actually helping people to move towards you, as I say, and you're nurturing people in order that they know, like and trust you more. That's the gist of what I've written on the board, my mad drawing for today, and I will, as I say, take a photograph of that so that you've got it. I wrote down one or two things which I was going to put on the one end of the board, but I'm going to just read them out for now, and I'll put them on the comments after this. I'll take a photograph of the board and I'll pop that onto the comments so that you can look at this in more detail to remind yourself. It'll also remind you of the future week sessions, so what we're going to cover. But if you've got questions on any of this and more detailed questions about finding and keeping your ideal clients and using social media for business, then you can put them in the comments box underneath this video, and I'll keep looking at it over the next couple of days. If you tag me in, it will tell me straight away that you've asked me a question, and I'll come back and do my best to answer it specifically, because I know a lot of you are watching this after the event. But my clear set of sort of points for this, and I'll write them down as my top tips at the end again in the comments. The answer to your challenges around finding and keeping ideal clients and around using social media for business purposes, they are intrinsically linked. You could not separate the two. In the modern world of business, those two things for a start go hand in hand. In the centre of this is know your customer. Absolutely and utterly know your customer, inside out, back to front. Make sure you've got a very clear picture of who they are, where they go, what they believe in, because that way you can start to actually learn what are the messages that you need to give them and fashion your messages absolutely to appeal to them. If you get to do the thing where people are interacting with you on Facebook or in other people's groups that are around your subject, start to listen and look at the phrases that they use and then replay those. So know your customer inside out. When you want to interact with your customer and give them messages, have a very clear set of goals as to what you're doing this for. So I'm not always sending out my messages about my business as a whole. I'm not always telling people about all the things I can do. Sometimes I'm just telling people about the one thing that's coming next that I want them to be aware of. So for instance, today I went to a networking meeting, and actually the one thing I wanted to promote there wasn't any of the stuff that I'd promoted previously. It was the fact that in 3-4 weeks time, on the 6th of September, we have a brand new event coming up, which is a networking event of 2 hours in an evening, and I wanted to tell people about that. So know at each opportunity when you're speaking to somebody or creating content exactly what the goal is for that particular bit of content. Each piece of content has one job, and that is to lead the customer to the next logical step. So therefore, you have to know in advance, where are you trying to take people? What's the journey? What's the story? And how does it help them get to where you've got something that you can really help them with? Produce awesome content. Remember the 80-20 rule. Don't always go on and tell us about your brilliant new product and your fabulous offer on something. Sometimes tell us about somebody's success story. Tell us about something in the news that relates to your product or vaguely relates to the subject that they will be interested in. Use a medium that suits you. Find which platforms suit you best on social media, and don't try and do everything. It's vital that you pick where your customers live and make that your principal platform, and then work with one other. Don't go overboard to be everywhere, because you'll only do it badly. Practice. I got it down 3 times. Practice, practice, practice. It's vital that you rehearse yourself, you hear yourself saying things, you practice writing, you get better at it, and you only do that through experience, through actually putting stuff out there. Don't try and be a perfectionist. I am a bit of a perfectionist. I'm a bit OCD. That's a minor statement, I think. That one of those people that would like it to always be the best it can possibly be, and I will worry myself stupid if I think it's not, whatever it is. But there is a point at which you have to now say, good enough is good enough. Put something out there, go out and meet people, take your messages out and learn from the reactions you get. Learn and evolve and improve based on the reactions that you get. See what works and do more of it. If you have a post on social media that does really well, that's the post to try a boost with, because that's the post that's resonating already. Why wouldn't you then try and amplify that success? Be consistent. So do things on regular days. Make sure that you've got some sort of pattern for people to follow. You may be thinking initially when you're using social media particularly that nobody's listening. Today, as I say, I've had one person come on, I think, while I've been here live, and I may be thinking, oh, I'm not going to do any more of these, they're not taking off. But next week I could have 20 people. Because hopefully if people see this the second time round and like it, I'm going to say to you, please share it. And I will tell you that I will be on again at 6 o'clock next Wednesday. So I'm telling you what I want you to do. I'm asking you for your help. And that's what you need to do. Be consistent. Be there for your people. Just because they haven't necessarily pushed a button and said anything doesn't mean they're not there. So make sure that you're consistent and you have patterns for them to follow, and they can start to rely on you to be there. Because there'll come a point where they'll step from behind their screen and they'll push that like button, and then you suddenly realise, actually they've been there all along, because they start talking to you about other things they've watched, other things you've said. And I've found this certainly with some of the blogs I've done. Since I've been here in Scotland, I've had a handful of people now over the time I've been out and about who have come up to me and heard part of my story when I've been talking and suddenly gone, are you the ones that write that blog about moving to Scotland? We are the ones that write the blog about moving to Scotland. Who knew they were watching? I've never met them before. They're from north of here by a long chalk. And yet here they were in a networking, and suddenly 2 and 2 put together, and they suddenly realised we're the people with the year of saying yes blog. I didn't know they were there. So don't lose heart. Be patient. Be patient and keep at it. Be consistent. Take tiny steps forward. But the key thing is make sure you make the best of this opportunity that we've got now. There has never been a better time for business, small business, to have a more level playing field with big business. Big business is desperate to try and get stories that we resonate with. More adverts that are like the John Lewis advert that we all wait for at Christmas, because it's the story of human beings and people. But we all know it's been written by an advertising company, right? But we still resonate, it still resonates with us, we still like it, we wait for it, we watch it 2 or 3 times, we'll go ah and oh at it. It's great, it's fine, it's doing a really good job for them. But your stories are real. Your stories about your life and why you've created this product and why this has worked for you and you want it to work for other people. Those stories are real stories about real people. They are going to resonate even more if you can manage to get them in front of your people. So make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity. There has never been a more level playing field for us to use. That's it. I have no idea how long I've been on for because I'm watchless today. So hopefully some of that may have made sense to you. I'm going to be back here next Wednesday doing another Facebook Live with the second set of these things. So that's the one about lack of confidence, fear of selling, the stuff around wanting to be more conversational and recommending things rather than selling, and also the bit around fear of success. So generally your fears and lack of confidence I will cover next week when we're together on Wednesday at 6 here on the business page. So Karen M. Yates, Ideas into Action. But I will share this later with the groups, the group that I've got, so that you can see it there if you want to. If you have any questions in advance of that, send them through. If you've got more questions about this session and you want to ask me more, stick it in the comments, tag me in so that I know that you want me to look at this, and I will do my very best to give you some sort of answer about your specific concerns around finding your ideal clients and using social media. And I will take a photograph, as I say, of this board so that you can see it in the comments, and I will put this little list together so that it's there as my top tips as a summary from today's session. So aside from that, I think that's all I've got to say to you. If I was doing a promo, I would say to anybody who is anywhere near Glasgow, tell them to come to my boot camp on the 25th of August, because currently I'm about 760, 770 people into meeting 1,000 people at business networking in order to find my ideal customers and clients for the boot camp. And you might know where some of them live, so I'm demonstrating what I've told you to do. Ask the people you know to point other people in your direction. Use the networks you have. That's all from me for now. Have a lovely evening. I hope the rest of your week is great. Somebody else has just come on. Hi Gurdeep. Oh, long time no see. A hobbit. How nice. That's 2 hobbits that have been on tonight. For those of you that don't know, I used to work in Birmingham at a trust. I was a director at an NHS trust at a place called Hob, Heart of Birmingham, teaching PCT. And a lot of brilliant colleagues of mine are still in touch with me and friends with me on Facebook and on social media. It's a fabulous way to stay in touch with them. So thanks very much for tuning in. You've missed all the live bits, but don't worry about that. It's there. It'll be there for you to look at afterwards. There's no getting away from me, Gerdu. So thanks very much, all of you, and have a lovely week, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.